What just happened to the undisputed king of golf? The man who was called unbeatable just weeks ago is now crumbling under the weight of his own expectations. While Scottie Scheffler fights demons no one saw coming, Rory McIlroy has risen from the ashes like a phoenix, firing a stunning 64 that left the golf world speechless. And as if that wasn't enough drama, Nelly Korda, the fiercest competitor on the planet, has stolen the show with a major victory that silenced every critic. This isn't just golf. This is a full-blown revolution, and the 2026 season just became the most unpredictable, jaw-dropping spectacle in sports history. Buckle up, because the script has officially flipped, and nobody, absolutely nobody, saw this coming. Fire person golfing. Scottie Scheffler entered the 2026 season as the undisputed king of professional golf, a man whose dominance was so absolute that even his fiercest rivals openly admitted they were playing for second place. His margin at the top of the official world golf ranking was the largest since Tiger Woods in his prime, a staggering testament to his consistency, power, and unshakable mental fortitude. With 21 PGA Tour victories already etched into his resume, and 2 more titles added in the early months of 2026, Scheffler had constructed an aura of invincibility that seemed impenetrable. He was winning FedEx St. Jude championships with the kind of ruthless efficiency that made the rest of the PGA Tour look like they were competing in a different sport entirely. Every putt he looked at seemed destined to drop. Every approach shot found the heart of the green, and every challenger who dared to step into the arena with him left battered and demoralized. But as the old saying goes, the bigger they come, the harder they fall. And for Scottie Scheffler, the fall came not with a single catastrophic blow, but with a series of cracks that slowly splintered his seemingly unbreakable foundation. It all began with a whisper, a subtle shift in the cosmic order of golf that nobody could have predicted. At the Genesis Scottish Open, a tournament that should have been a routine tune-up for a player of his caliber, something went terribly wrong. On his final hole, facing a 6-foot par putt that would have secured his place on the weekend, Scheffler's putter betrayed him. The ball lipped out, and suddenly, the most consistent player on the planet found himself missing the cut by 2 agonizing shots. This wasn't just a minor setback. It was an earthquake that sent shockwaves through the entire golfing establishment. For a player who hadn't missed a cut in 4 long years, an astonishing streak spanning 78 consecutive tournaments over 1,428 days, this was unprecedented territory. The sheer length of that streak, nearly half a decade of unfailing weekend appearances, made this single miss feel like a cosmic disturbance. The invincible aura that had surrounded Scheffler for so long began to show its first hairline fracture, a crack that would soon widen into a chasm. Then came the BMW Championship, a stage where legends are made and hearts are broken. Playing alongside Rory McIlroy just 1 week after the St. Jude, the tables turned in the most brutal and humiliating fashion imaginable. McIlroy, fresh off his own struggles and desperate for redemption, fired a flawless 6 under 64 that left the gallery gasping, while Scheffler, visibly sick, hoarse, and clearly struggling, scrambled to a 2 over 72 that was light years away from his usual standard. The 10-shot gap between them was more than just a score difference. It was a symbolic passing of the torch, a moment where the hunter became the hunted and the king was dethroned in plain sight. McIlroy's stunning turnaround wasn't just a victory. It was a declaration of war, a statement that the crown might be slipping from Scheffler's grasp. The body language told its own story too. Scheffler's usually stoic demeanor was replaced by visible frustration, his shoulders slumping as each putt missed its mark, his confident stride replaced by a hesitant shuffle. The golf world was stunned. The man who had been invincible for so long suddenly looked human, vulnerable, beatable. But was this just a temporary blip, a combination of illness and bad luck, or was something deeper brewing beneath the surface? Many experts began to speculate that the weight of expectation, the relentless pressure of maintaining a tiger-like dominance, was finally taking its toll. Scheffler had been the face of the PGA Tour, the man who carried the sport on his broad shoulders, and perhaps that burden had become too heavy. The whispers grew louder. Is Scottie Scheffler in a slump? Has the competition finally caught up to him? Or is this simply a temporary setback that will fuel his comeback? One thing was certain. The narrative had changed, And for the first time in years, Scottie Scheffler was no longer the favorite. He was the struggling giant, and everyone, from Rory McIlroy to the youngest rookie on tour, suddenly believed they could beat him. The psychological impact of this shift cannot be overstated in a sport where confidence is everything. And Scheffler's confidence, once unshakable, now appeared to be on shaky ground. The fall of the king was not just a story about missed putts and bad swings. It was a story about the fragility of dominance, the relentless nature of competition, and the cruel unpredictability of professional golf. As Scheffler retreated to regroup, the golf world waited with bated breath to see if he could reclaim his throne or if the era of Scottie Scheffler was already beginning to fade into the rearview mirror. Just when everyone was ready to write off Rory McIlroy as a fading legend, the Northern Irishman delivered the kind of comeback that reminds us why he is one of the greatest players to ever pick up a golf club. After a brutal 4-week break following the British Open, Rory arrived at the FedEx St. Jude Championship looking like a shadow of his former self, his timing off, his rhythm disrupted, and his trademark confidence conspicuously absent. For the first time in over 5 years, he failed to break par in any of the 4 rounds, finishing a forgettable 66th place that sent shockwaves through his fanbase. The frustration wasn't just visible on his face, it was etched into every swing, every frustrated club twirl, every muttered curse under his breath. The golf world began to murmur the dreaded question: is Rory McIlroy washed up? Has the once unstoppable prodigy finally lost his edge? But Rory McIlroy has never been one to stay down for long, and instead of wallowing in self-pity or making excuses, he did what all true champions do when the chips are down. He went back to work. He flew home to Florida immediately after his disastrous performance, not for a vacation or a pity party, but for a marathon session with his longtime swing coach, Michael Bannon. The two men locked themselves in the practice facility and spent countless hours breaking down every aspect of Rory's game, analyzing swing footage, tweaking positions, and searching for the magic formula that had made him a 4-time major champion. And they found it. What they fixed was not just one minor technical flaw. It was a complete recalibration of his entire approach to the golf swing. The results were immediate and nothing short of electrifying. At the BMW Championship, Rory McIlroy looked like a man reborn, a warrior who had emerged from the crucible of failure with renewed purpose and a ferocious determination to silence his critics. He attacked Bellerive Country Club with a precision and aggression we hadn't seen in months, his driver finding fairways with machine-like consistency, his iron shots raining down on flags with unerring accuracy. He carded 6 birdies, 0 bogeys, and a breathtaking 6 under 64 that catapulted him to the top of the leaderboard, his name once again occupying the position that was rightfully his. It wasn't just the score that impressed, it was the manner in which he achieved it. Rory was calm, confident, and in complete control of every facet of his game, a stark contrast to the lost and frustrated figure we had witnessed just days earlier. In his post-round interview, McIlroy offered a glimpse into his mindset, explaining the work he had done with Bannon and how it had restored his belief. I went home and I worked on a few things and at least got myself back in a frame of mind where I felt like I'm at least back on the right path, he said, his voice carrying a quiet confidence that had been conspicuously absent. His iron play was particularly impressive, ranking second in strokes gained. Approach, a statistical category that measures a player's ability to hit the green and create birdie opportunities. This was a significant improvement from his struggles at the St. Jude, where his iron play had been erratic and uncharacteristically wayward. The belief was back, and just like that, the entire narrative had flipped. The man who had been written off as a declining superstar was suddenly the most dangerous player on the course, a phoenix rising from the ashes of his own disappointment. But what was the secret sauce, the specific technical adjustment that unlocked this transformation? While Rory kept the exact details close to his chest, experts speculated that the changes involved a more compact backswing and a different wrist angle at the top, adjustments designed to improve his consistency and prevent the dreaded two-way miss that had plagued him at times. Whatever the technical specifics, the mental shift was undeniable. Rory was smiling again, interacting with the crowd, and playing with the kind of swagger that had made him a global icon. His performance at the BMW Championship was not just a win on the leaderboard. It was a win over his own demons, a victory of the human spirit over the crushing weight of expectation. The golf world, which had been quick to write him off, was now collectively eating crow, marveling at the resilience and talent of a player who refuses to be counted out. McIlroy's resurrection sent a clear message to every young golfer watching. Failure is not the end. It is merely the beginning of the comeback story. And for Rory, the comeback story was only just beginning to unfold. The BMW was a launching pad, a statement of intent that he was not content to be a footnote in the Scottie Scheffler era. He was here to reclaim his throne, and he was ready to fight for every inch of it. While the men's game was embroiled in its own dramatic crisis, with the world number one crumbling and his greatest rival staging a desperate comeback, the women's world number one was quietly, ruthlessly, and magnificently doing what she does best: winning, dominating, and redefining greatness. Nelly Korda's 2026 season has been nothing short of legendary, a campaign that will be studied and celebrated for generations to come. She has already established herself as the undisputed best player in the women's game, having won 5 consecutive LPGA Tour events earlier in the year, a feat of sustained excellence that is almost unheard of in modern professional golf. She reclaimed the top ranking with a combination of power, finesse, and a mental fortitude that would make even the most seasoned sports psychologists nod in admiration. But Korda is no robotic winner. She is a fiercely human competitor who has also tasted the bitter pill of inconsistency, missing cuts at 2 majors with scores in the 80s that raised eyebrows and sparked questions about her reliability on the biggest stages. However, when the pressure is at its absolute peak, when the spotlight is brightest, and when the entire sporting world is watching, Nelly Korda delivers like no other. At the U.S. Women's Open, she proved her mettle once and for all, capturing her 4th major title in a performance that was equal parts grit, grace, and sheer determination. With the golf world's attention momentarily diverted by the men's struggles, Korda seized the moment and commanded the stage with an authority that left her competitors in awe. She held off a charging field at the iconic Riviera Country Club in California, winning by a single stroke with a final score of 8 under 276. It was a masterclass in tournament management, a victory that wasn't built on flashy heroics, but on a steady accumulation of smart decisions, clutch putts, and unwavering belief. The pivotal moment came on the 17th hole, where Korda rolled in a birdie putt that gave her the lead and ultimately proved to be the winning stroke, holding off the determined challenges of Gabby Lopez and Charlie Hull, who were breathing down her neck until the very end. The victory was especially sweet because it came with a dose of poetic justice, a vindication of her belief in herself after those occasional disappointing performances. Korda's triumph wasn't just a personal achievement. It was a broader statement about the state of women's golf and its rightful place in the sports conversation. While Scheffler and McIlroy were battling their own demons, Korda was stacking hardware, building a legacy that transcends gender boundaries and places her among the true greats of the game. Her victory at the U.S. Women's Open was not just a major title. It was a declaration that in the year 2026, the most compelling, high-stakes, and dramatic golf being played anywhere in the world was happening on the LPGA Tour. But what is it about Korda that makes her so formidable? Her physical attributes are certainly part of the equation. She possesses a powerful, athletic swing that generates effortless distance, and her short game is among the best in the world. However, it is her mental game that truly sets her apart. Korda has an almost preternatural ability to stay present in the moment, to block out the noise of expectations, and to execute shots with a clarity that few players can match. She does not get too high after a birdie or too low after a bogey. She maintains a steady, calm demeanor that unnerves her opponents and gives her an edge in pressure situations. Furthermore, her preparation is meticulous. She studies courses with the intensity of a chess grandmaster, identifying the subtle contours and hidden dangers that can turn a good round into a great one. She surrounds herself with a strong support team, including her father, Petra Korda, a former tennis Grand Slam champion, whose athletic pedigree has clearly influenced her approach to competition. The contrast between the men's and women's tours in 2026 could not be starker. On one side, you have a chaotic, unpredictable battle where the king is stumbling and the challengers are vying for his crown. On the other side, You have a clear, undisputed queen who is expanding her legacy with every tournament she plays. Nelly Korda didn't just steal the spotlight. She grabbed it with both hands, held it high, and proved that in a year of unprecedented golf drama, she is the most compelling story of all. She is not just a champion. She is the face of a new generation, a player who embodies the values of hard work, resilience, and grace under pressure. And as the 2026 season approaches its climax, one thing is certain. Nelly Korda will continue to be a dominant force, a player who turns the spotlight on herself every time she steps onto the course. If you want to truly understand the magnitude of this seismic shift in the golfing landscape, you have to look past the flashy headlines and emotional narratives and dive deep into the cold, hard numbers. Statistics, after all, do not lie, and the statistical story of the 2026 season is one of stark contrasts, shifting power dynamics, and a complete reordering of the sport's hierarchy. On the men's side, the official World Golf Ranking tells a story of a wide-open field that is suddenly, shockingly vulnerable. Scottie Scheffler remains at number 1, clinging to the top spot by a thread, with Rory McIlroy breathing down his neck at number 2. But the gap between them, once a chasm that seemed unbridgeable, is closing at an alarming rate. Scheffler's victory at the FedEx St. Jude Championship did pad his lead, providing a temporary buffer, but McIlroy's spectacular resurgence at the BMW Championship has completely shifted the narrative and narrowed the statistical gap. We are no longer having discussions about how many tournaments Scheffler will win by. We are debating whether he can hold off the charging pack at all. The strokes gained statistics, the primary metric used by analysts to evaluate player performance, paint an even more detailed picture. Scheffler's strokes gained from tee to green, once the gold standard by which all others were measured, have dipped slightly, while his putting, a perennial area of concern, has become more erratic. McIlroy, on the other hand, has seen his strokes gain numbers skyrocket, particularly in approach play and around the green, where he has made significant improvements. The 10-shot swing between them at the BMW Championship was not an anomaly. It was a statistical reflection of a broader trend. And it's not just Scheffler who is feeling the heat. The entire men's top 10 is in a state of flux, with players like Collin Morikawa, Patrick Cantlay, and Xander Schauffele all experiencing their own ups and downs, creating an atmosphere of unprecedented uncertainty. No one looks invincible anymore, and that has made the men's game infinitely more exciting and unpredictable. Now shift your gaze to the women's side, and you see a completely different statistical story. Nelly Korda's dominance is absolute. Her numbers a testament to her unparalleled consistency and brilliance. She leads the LPGA Tour in multiple statistical categories, including scoring average, birdie average, and greens in regulation. Her performance at the U.S. Women's Open, where she won despite not having her a game, demonstrates a level of statistical grit that is rare in any sport. She makes birdies when she needs them, saves pars when she has to, and converts opportunities at a rate that leaves her competitors in the dust. The gap between Korda and the rest of the women's field is actually growing, not shrinking, as she continues to stack victories and major titles. While the men's game is characterized by volatility and struggle, the women's game has a clear, undisputed queen who is turning her era into a dynasty. The statistical contrast is fascinating and revealing. On one side, you have a battle of struggling giants, a war of attrition where vulnerability is the new normal. On the other side, you have a reigning champion who is expanding her empire with every tournament. This statistical tale of two tours has profound implications for the sport as a whole. For the PGA Tour, it means they have a compelling narrative of redemption and rivalry that can attract viewers. Will Scheffler reclaim his throne, or will McIlroy finally dethrone him? The uncertainty is a marketing goldmine. For the LPGA Tour, Korda's dominance provides a different kind of appeal, a chance to build a legacy brand around a superstar who transcends the sport. Both tours have compelling stories to tell, but the statistical underpinning of these stories could not be more different. The numbers also raise interesting questions about the future. Will Scheffler's statistical decline be a temporary blip or a long-term trend? Can McIlroy sustain his statistical improvement, or will he regress back to inconsistency? How many more major titles will Korda win? And can anyone even challenge her statistical supremacy? As fans and analysts, we are left to ponder these questions while marveling at the statistical drama unfolding before our eyes. One thing is certain: the numbers don't lie, and they are telling us that the 2026 golf season is one of the most statistically fascinating and narratively compelling in the history of the sport. The old order has been disrupted, and the new order is still being written. As the dust settles on the most dramatic week of the 2026 golf season, the inevitable question on every fan's mind is, where do we go from here? What does the future hold for these three titans, and how will the rest of the season unfold? The stage is set for an epic conclusion to the 2026 season, a final act that promises to be as thrilling and unpredictable as the drama that has already unfolded. For Rory McIlroy, the BMW Championship was far more than just a victory. It was a launching pad, a resounding statement that he is very much alive and ready to compete for the biggest prizes. He has rediscovered his swing, his swagger, and his belief, and that combination makes him the most dangerous player on the planet. But the question is whether he can sustain it. McIlroy has been notoriously streaky throughout his career, capable of running off a string of victories, but also prone to inexplicable slumps. He has openly admitted that his work with swing coach Michael Bannon is a work in progress, a continuous process of refinement and adjustment rather than a finished product. However, his performance at Bellerive suggests that this particular progress is coming fast and furious, and if he can maintain this level of play, he will be a force to be reckoned with in every tournament he enters. The mental fortitude he showed in bouncing back from a horrific performance at the St. Jude to win at the BMW is a testament to the kind of resilience that defines true champions. He didn't make excuses. He went to work and fixed the problem. That is the hallmark of a player who still has a burning desire to add to his major tally. For Scottie Scheffler, the situation is more urgent and more complicated. The missed cuts, the illnesses, and the uncharacteristically poor performances are warning signs that cannot be ignored. In a sport where confidence is the most important currency, a player of his caliber cannot afford to let these cracks become chasms. He needs a win, and he needs it soon, to silence the doubters and reassert his dominance over the field. But more than that, he needs to rediscover the joy and freedom that characterized his play during his rise to the top. When Scheffler is at his best, he is playing with a carefree abandon, attacking pins and making putts with a smile on his face. The pressure of being the hunted has clearly weighed on him, and he must find a way to shed that burden and return to being the hunter. The good news for Scheffler is that his talent is undeniable, and slumps, even for the best players, are often temporary. A single great round, a single putt that drops at the right time, can reignite his spark and send him on another dominant run. The golf world will be watching him closely to see how he responds to this adversity. And then there is Nelly Korda, the undisputed queen who is looking ahead to the next major with the same relentless focus and determination that has defined her entire career. Her victory at the U.S. Women's Open has added another jewel to her crown, but she is far from satisfied. Korda is a player who is always looking for the next challenge, the next milestone, the next opportunity to prove herself. She has made it clear that her goal is not just to win majors, but to dominate the game in a way that few women have done before. With the final majors of the season on the horizon, she is the overwhelming favorite, and her competitors know that they will have to play their absolute best to beat her. The 2026 narrative, once dominated by the question of whether Scottie Scheffler could maintain his reign, has now evolved into a thrilling, unpredictable battle where the king stumbles, the challenger rises, and the queen reminds everyone who really rules the game. It is a story of redemption, rivalry, and resilience, a story that has captivated golf fans around the world and drawn new viewers to the sport. As the season enters its final stretch, the stakes could not be higher. Will Rory McIlroy continue his resurgence and finally add that elusive fifth major? Will Scottie Scheffler find his game again and silence the doubters? Will Nelly Korda further cement her legacy as one of the greatest players of all time? The answers to these questions will be revealed in the coming weeks and months, and the journey promises to be unforgettable. So buckle up, golf fans. The best is yet to come, and this roller coaster ride of a season is far from over. We are witnessing history in the making, and the battle for supremacy is only just beginning. Fire.